Hello friends, I hope that you're well. As many of you may know, I have picked my next big backpacking destination, and that is South America. More specifically, Colombia and Ecuador to start off with. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through my entire planning process, the things that I've already done, the things that I'm currently doing, and the things that I still need to do. We're going to be looking at destinations, budget, accommodation, travel logistics, activities, visas, packing, all that fun stuff. So firstly, let's start off with the things that I've obviously already done. So the very first thing was picking the destination. How did I pick Colombia and Ecuador as my next destinations? I'm at the point in my life where I really need to prioritize the destinations that I want to travel to as a solo backpacker who likes to stay in hostels, who likes to go and have wild adventures from the day into the night, meet loads of new people and be young, wild and free, because that's the category of life that I'm in right now. And I don't think I'm going to be in this category forever. I want to settle down and have kids one day, and I'm sure at that point I'll probably want to travel slightly differently. And I think that there are some destinations which are definitely more suited to that type of travel, and there are destinations where being a backpacker I think is definitely the most fun way to get around. So looking at all of the destinations over the world that I have not been to that are fantastic for backpackers and fairly affordable as well, South America is right at the top of my bucket list. It's somewhere that I wanted to go for a very long time, but has never been right at the top of my priority list until now. And since I'm trying to escape the British winter this year, as with every year, it only makes sense for me to go also somewhere that's either on or below the equator, which is exactly where this is. So when am I going and how long am I going for? Initially, I said I wanted to start this trip like right at the beginning of January 2020. However, I have been informed that there is a very, very fun, massive salsa festival happening in Cali, Colombia over Christmas for like 4 days. And I really want to go to it. So now I think I'm going to be leaving in mid-December. I am in the process of starting a new business back here in the UK, which you will find out so very, very soon. I've hinted it quite a lot in the past, but because of this, it means I don't really want to spend loads and loads and loads of time away from the UK. So for that reason, and also for backpacking too long, I start to lose my sanity a bit. I don't think I want to be gone for longer than 3 months. So with that in mind, I will probably be in South America from mid-December to mid-March. And I really don't want to rush my travels. I've done that in the past and I always just end up leaving destinations, countries feeling a little bit disappointed and wishing that I had travelled slower and had done more. So with that in mind, I only expect to be able to cover about 2 countries in South America in 3 months. And before you say anything, that does not mean that I don't want to travel more of South America. Of course I do, but it may just have to wait for another time. But we'll see. I'm booking a one-way flight in order to be as flexible as possible and I guess just see where the journey takes me. And Colombia in particular is a massive country, so a big reason why I think it's going to take me a really long time is even just in my first destination, Cali, I feel like I want to spend at least a few weeks there just like intensely learning to salsa dance, because that's just massive on my bucket list. And there's a big city called Medellin, which is really popular with digital nomads and people working online and expats. And I can really see myself probably plonking myself there for at least a couple of weeks, catching up on editing, because of course I want to keep you guys updated with my adventure as I go along. But as I learned from the Philippines, I'm really not very good at editing whilst backpacking, because I'm backpacking, I'm having a good time. But if I can stop in certain places just for a week or 2 weeks and smash out the work that I've done so far, then it means that I'm able to keep you guys updated along the way, which is something that I really want to do. And Medellin is also supposed to just be a really cool city to hang out in. There's also multi-day hikes in Colombia, which I'm really keen to do. So I really think I could easily spend at least 2 months there. And next door to Colombia, we have Ecuador, which is quite considerably smaller. So I don't think it's going to take me half as long to backpack. But you've also got the Galapagos Islands, which I'm really keen to go to if I can afford it. So with all of that in mind, I don't think I'm going to have time to visit more than that in 3 months. But who knows? Never say never. The fun thing about one-way flights is that I can just see where the wind takes me. Now, despite the fact that I want to be flexible, I personally think that research is so important to do before going on a big backpacking trip. So you have an idea of the things that you can do. You've got some good recommendations of places to stay, places to eat, activities, hostels, budget, and how much things should realistically be costing you. So how do I go about doing my research? First and foremost, I am constantly taking recommendations from people and making a note of it. Whenever I get a recommendation for a country that I think I might want to go to one day, whether it's from a friend, from a blog, from an Instagram, from the TV, I make a note, I make a star of it on my Google Maps. So I already have quite a few stars in Colombia of recommendations. Some hotels, some restaurants, some tour activity companies, some national parks, or just some waterfalls and things like this. The reason I do this is because when I one day find myself in these destinations, I can just whip out my Google Maps, have a look at any of the stars that I might have starred there, and I can go there knowing that someone's given me a good recommendation. And then as far as active research goes, I literally just watch so many YouTube videos. I watch vlogs of backpackers in these destinations, and I read travel blogs which have loads of information. At this point, I would love to give a big shout out to my friends Andrew and Emily, who run the blog alongdustyroads.com, and they are hands down the best blog website on the internet for South America content information, from recommendations, packing lists, beautiful photographs. These guys have done it all, and they're my friends, so I trust them. I will link their website down in the description, which you guys can check out, especially if you're planning a trip to Central America. So once I have a nice load of stars on my map, I can perhaps start to think of a rough itinerary. Most importantly, where I want to start my adventure in order to give myself the best opportunity to reach as many destinations on my list as possible. Also, of course, this is where I'm going to have to book my flight into. The capital of Colombia is Bogota, which I imagine is where most backpackers will start off their destination because it's where most international flights will fly into. However, I think I'm wanting to start my journey in Cali because of this Christmas festival. So what I'm looking into at the moment is the logistics of flying into there. But again, nothing is set in stone at the moment. I don't like booking things until maybe like a month in advance because I know what I'm like. I change my mind a lot. So I guess we'll just see with that one. A question I get asked a lot is how far in advance should I book my accommodation when I'm backpacking? And the truth is there really is no right or wrong answer to this, but what I do in order to be secure and flexible. Once I have booked my flight and that's in place, I will book my very first accommodation in that city that I land in because why not? I know I'm going to be there for a particular date, so I might as well secure as soon as possible a nice place for me to stay. I'll also book an advance accommodation if I know I'm going to be anywhere else for a particular day. Maybe if you're going to be somewhere for a particular event, if you know you're going to be there, book your accommodation as soon as possible because why not? You're going to be there anyway. But as for the rest of the trip, the majority of the trip where I don't know where I'm going to be on what dates, I will book this accommodation online about a day or two before because normally when I'm backpacking on the road, I will know where I'm going the next day or maybe in 2 days' time. So that's when I'll book my accommodation. I'll go on Hostel World. I'll make sure I have a local SIM card so that I can always access being online. And I will book my next hostel just a day or two in advance. This makes me feel really secure that I have a specific destination of where I'm going to when I arrive in that new destination. There are some backpackers who don't do this. They will literally just rock up at a new destination on the day with nowhere to stay and then go around hostel hopping, like searching for somewhere to stay. I have done that in the past and it's always been fine, but I don't really like to do that because I find I just can't be bothered, to be honest. Like when you arrive in a new destination, normally you've been on a bus for a few hours. The last thing you want to do is just walk with your backpack on your back, trying to find somewhere to stay for the night with no guarantees. So that is an option, but personally, I just don't do it like that anymore. If I've got my reservation in place, I know that I can head straight to that hostel. I can put my bags down, I can lock my valuables away in a locker, and I just feel more zen. I feel more zen and I feel more at home in that destination from the get-go. Now the big question, budget. How much is this going to cost me? 3 months in Colombia and Ecuador, and how do you even calculate a budget when you've never been to that destination before? The first place that I always look for information is Nomadic Matt's blog. I will link it down below. I always use Matt's blog as a rough ballpark to start off with. So what does Nomadic Matt have to say about Colombia? Okay, so he's got a range of options. I'm definitely in the backpacker region. Up here he has said $48 a day, and down here he has said $38 per day. So let's go with around $40, which in GBP is £32. So going by this figure, it should cost me just under £1,000 per month in Colombia. So 2 months there costing me just under £2,000. And Ecuador, he says, is 30 to 35 US dollars per day, so around £25 per day, which is just £750 per month. So as a very rough ballpark, not including my international flights, £2,750 for 3 months. And I actually think that this may cost me a little bit less because, like I told you, I'm going to be traveling quite a bit slower. Like, for example, if I stay in Medellin for 2 weeks, I'm not going to be spending much there at all other than just on my accommodation and food. I won't be doing any activities or travel there, so I should save a little bit of money there. But this is just a ballpark. Also, Nomadic Matt's website is generally just very good for general backpacking information, budgeting advice, and things like this. So thank you very much, Matt, for your blog assistance. And then there is, of course, the international flights. So a little look at Skyscanner. You can get one-way flights for £320, but they are very long. And after my 50-hour flight where my luggage was lost and never to be seen again, I'm not such a big fan of doing these really long flights anymore, so I'd much rather invest a little bit more money in a flight that I feel more secure with. For the time of year that I want to go, it's looking like a one-way flight is around £500. And then, of course, I will need to book a return flight eventually. So let's say another £500 for that. I'm going to budget around £1,000 for international flights. And now what about visas? I like to look on the Gov website in the UK to find this out. So Colombia, I can travel freely without a visa for 90 days. Happy days. And as for Ecuador, there seems to be a lot of bad things happening in Ecuador very recently, which is advising us against travelling there. Okay, that is a big shame. We'll keep an eye on this to see if things settle down. These events were only very recent. If it still looks like this at the time that I'm wanting to go to Ecuador, I may have to reconsider and perhaps get a flight to Peru or Bolivia, but this is why it's good to have a flexible itinerary, guys. But no visas required. So with that in mind, £1,000 for international flights, £2,750 for 3 months of travel. That's £3,750 that I'd want to have as the absolute minimum in my bank account to pay for this trip. I actually hope to spend less than this, but it is important that I actually have more than this, just in case. Also, I was having a look at some of the trips to Galapagos. I think if I went there, I would definitely want to do it as a group tour. And looking at websites like Contiki, Intrepid, G Adventures, it seems like round trips to the Galapagos from Quito cost from about £2,000, which obviously brings up my price a lot. That's not to say I don't want to do it though, because it's literally one of the most incredible places on this whole earth. So it's an option for me to consider doing, depending on logistics and finances at the time. But I'm not going to completely beat myself up if I can't do it this time. Okay, so what now? What do I still need to plan before I go? I need to check if I need vaccinations. I have checked and I am fully up to date, but I highly recommend checking yourself with your travel health clinic if you are planning a trip out there yourself. I'm going to keep reading blogs and watching YouTube videos just to keep adding to my list of recommendations and get me excited. I find watching people's YouTube vlogs, even if they're really poorly produced, I still just find it really exciting to watch other backpackers in the country that I'm going to, because I'm like, yay, that's going to be me so soon. I'm going to book my flight and my first accommodation in the country, probably not for at least another month, but it is something that I will need to do at some point. I must pack, and I haven't told you guys this yet, but I plan to do this trip hand luggage only. Dun dun dun. I'm going to have a few new items of clothes which should make this minimalist packing a lot easier. We all know from my previous packing videos that I am not a minimalist backpacker, and it's really because I have not found items of clothing that are versatile enough but still look nice to see me through. So watch this space. What I would like to buy is a new pair of shoes. If I'm going hand luggage only, realistically, I think I'm only going to be able to bring one pair of closed-toed shoes, which will be the shoes that I wear on the plane. And some people have said to me, if you're going to South America, you need hiking boots. But then there are some people who have said, nah, you don't need hiking boots, like trainers will see you through. So hearing this conflicting information, what I think I want to get is like a hybrid shoe, either a trail runner or some trainers that have great hiking capabilities. So basically ones that are waterproof and you can walk in for a really long time. I think this will be a nice compromise, because although I do want to do a nice amount of hiking on my trip, I don't think it's necessarily going to dominate my trip, if you know what I mean. It also needs to be a pair of shoes that I'm going to be doing like adventure activities in. I don't know if I do any climbing or any activities which just require closed-toed shoes, you know what I mean? One hike in particular that I am keen to do in Colombia is a multi-day trek to the Lost City. And you know what I'm also debating, and I'd love you guys' opinion on this, especially if you've already been to Colombia and or Ecuador. I think I only want to bring one pair of sandals, and the debate is between my Birkenstocks or like a nice pair of more walking sandals, a pair like these for instance. Bear in mind I will probably want to wear these shoes on nights out as well, or backpacker nights out. And do you know what I also want for my trip? The new GoPro Hero 8. Yes, please, I'd very much like that. I have ongoing travel insurance, but if you do not have travel insurance, that is something that you definitely need to look into getting to before going on a big backpacking trip. I've still got these fitness goals which I'm working towards. 63 days to go. Actually, it's probably more like 60 days to go now. I can now do 13 press-ups. Thank you very much. That's definitely improvement. But I can still not do a single pull-up. And finally, I am trying, not succeeding too much, to brush up on my Spanish. I've used various online language learning services in the past, which have all been fab, but all of my subscriptions have expired and I have not practiced in a long time. So I'm going to spend a bit of time on Duolingo. The app seems to have improved a lot since the last time I went on it, which was about like 5 years ago. And do you know what I'm also low-key planning on doing? Going to Spanish school in Colombia for the very first week of my trip, because I've heard that many people there just don't speak English at all. And that is great. I want to learn Spanish. Throw me in the deep end. But I will have to try and prepare myself for that as best as possible. If I do anything more to plan for my South America trip, I will definitely update you guys. Are you guys planning for any trips at the moment? How's it going? Where are you off to? Let me know. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
You just seem to have one